The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports and Cox Communications, connecting Virginians to their government. We're pleased to connect you with three delegates from the Norfolk area today. Delegate Joannou, good to see you, sir.
My pleasure, sir.
Delegate Algie, Howell, welcome.
Thank you.
Senator Kenny Alexander, welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
There have been a few changes in the Senate over the last week, Senator Alexander. Tell us what happened there and how things are going as a result.
Things are going well in the Senate. After the elections, Mark Herron and Ralph Northam left the Senate. Mark Herron went on to be the Attorney General. Ralph Northam went on to be the President of the Senate, which is Lieutenant Governor. There were two special elections, one in Northern Virginia and one in Accomack, Norfolk. Those seats were filled by Democrats. And with the President being a Democrat, there was a reorganization. The President votes with his caucus, his party. Lieutenant Governor Northam is a Democrat, therefore he caucused with the Democrats, giving us essentially 21 votes in the Senate on certain bills and certain resolutions. He's prohibited by Constitution from voting on the budget, voting on judges, and constitutional amendments.
So your committee assignments remain the same, however?
My committee assignments remain the same. There was no change in any of my committee assignments. I still serve on Commerce and Labor. I still serve on Rehab. I still serve on P&E, and I serve on Transportation. Great.
Delegate Howell, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Your committee assignments, I assume, have not changed.
They have not
There was
changed.
no reorganization in the House of Delegates. The Republicans still control it.
They still control, and it looks like they're going to be controlling for some time.
And your committee assignments are?
I'm still on Appropriation, Privilege and Elections, Rules, and HWI, Health, Welfare, and Institution.
Tell us a little bit about the district you represent.
I represent a part of Norfolk and a part of Virginia Beach. Prior to that, before the redistricting, I also had a part of Chesapeake. But after the redistricting, they limited to just Norfolk and Virginia Beach. And it's really a good section in each city. They're wonderful people that I represent in both areas.
And Delegate Joannou, tell us a little bit about your committee assignments and your constituency.
Well, I've been assigned to Appropriations, Privilege and Elections, Commerce and Labor, and Rules. And I've been on those committees for quite a few years now. I represent, of course, a piece of Portsmouth, which is a major part of my district, and I also represent a part of Norfolk, which runs all the way up from West Gant. Is that where it is? Kenny and I were seatmates on the Senate, on the House side, and we sort of split Norfolk a little bit. And I went all the way up through and including the base. Mm-hmm. And that's my Norfolk section, which includes ODU.
And how important are the military institutions to your constituency and your district, Senator?
It's great because we have a large military population. We have a lot of men and women in uniforms as well as retirees, a strong military presence, a lot of military facilities on both sides of the water, especially in my Norfolk district, as well as a lot of the retirees and active duty personnel lives in the city of Chesapeake. And so they're very active, very vital, very important. The Department of Defense budget in Hampton Roads is significant, and we're very appreciative to the military for what they do for our country, and we're very supportive of all the bills and resolutions that come across our desk to support the military and their dependents.
And I take it there's still some concern about the impact of sequestration from Washington, D.C.?
There's concern. However, with Senator Warner and Senator King, and as well as our congressional delegation, they work together, including Randy Forbes and Bobby Scott and Rob Whitman, who represents our area. They work very well together to lessen the impact of sequestration and other types of budget cuts. So we're very happy to work with them. They keep us informed. You will see them around the Capitol. They'll make an appearance before the end of the session. And so we're very pleased to work with our congressional delegation to lessen the impact of sequestration on our constituents.
Delegate Howell, I know you have a rich and robust history in terms of education. Talk to us a little bit about the institutions of higher learning in your district.
Well, the major institution of higher learning in my area, of course, is almost in my back door. It's Norfolk State University, which I'm very proud of. I'm a product of that institution, and so is my wife, my daughter, and my son. It's very important. Norfolk State is very important for the entire community because that institution has provided opportunities for many people that otherwise would not have had a chance to be successful in life. We have people such as Dr. Keith Newby, who graduated from there, Dr. Julian Earls, who went on to Harvard and got his PhD, and I think he retired as the Chief Aeronautics and Space Administration Officer in Cleveland. And the school is really economically, it provides a lot to the city of Norfolk and the surrounding area in that area.
And Delegate Joannou, I believe Old Dominion University is in your district.
Yes, sir, and very proud of it. Proud of Norfolk Eastern State. We've got, I think, the makings of a fine place for improvement in the medical field. If you take Old Dominion, Norfolk State, and Eastern Virginia Medical School, with those three entities in Southside Hampton Roads, I'm hoping that eventually we can bring in some people who will do research in medicine and build up a tremendous medical practice, not today or tomorrow, but down the road in 5 to 10 years, so that people will have jobs in hospitals, people will have jobs in the medical field, that will have service to the citizens of our area, just like Richmond has VCU and the medical school up here, and also Charlottesville with the medical school that they have. I think that we're in a position where we can really become united and really strengthened in that medical field. And in ODU this year, we've been able, as well as Norfolk State. Norfolk State is doing a great job now. They have a new president, and that is really getting off the ground good. And I can say, with the help of both the senator and the delegate, that Norfolk State is really coming around. It'll be one of the finest institutions that we have. For years, both ODU and Norfolk State have been down at the bottom of the list. We have now been able to push and get some things for Norfolk State and for ODU that we haven't been able to do in the past. And I'm hoping that within the next 4 or 5 years we'll be up to where we should be in our funding to them. And this year we're doing a pretty good job. And we've had some good improvements at both Norfolk State and ODU. Their budgets are being fulfilled this year. Both the delegate and I serve on appropriations, and we're pushing real hard for that.
Great. Senator Alexander, just to build on that, comment upon not only those institutions of higher learning, but the importance of the community colleges in your district.
Yeah. Tidewater Community College is a major employer. Is part of the economic engine for Hampton Roads. There is a campus in Chesapeake, of course, a campus in Portsmouth, a campus in Norfolk, and a campus in Virginia Beach, and a lot of students who aren't ready to go to the university, to Norfolk State or Old Dominion. We encourage them to do their associates or certificate program at our community colleges. It's a place for workforce development. It partners with some of our businesses to prepare their workforce in the technical field, in the vocational field, as well as those students who want to transfer to go from our community college system right into the university. I'm a product of the community college system here in Chester, John Tyler Community College. And when I was at Old Dominion, through the consortium program, I was able to take, and students today, they're able to take classes both at the community college as well as their host university, be it Norfolk State or Old Dominion. So the community college system is a good buy, very economical, and it's convenient, and it's accessible. The doors are open for all those who want to apply, regardless of age.
So the 2+2 program that virtually guarantees admission into one of our institutions of higher learning, depending upon, of course, an adequate grade point average, and the tuition assistance grant program are still in existence and still critical to those efforts.
Yes, the TAG, the tuition assistance grants, and not only those students matriculating to our public schools, some are going to UVA, and many are going to Old Dominion and Virginia Commonwealth at VCU and George Mason, but there are some who actually end up at William & Mary and at Virginia Tech, and some go to our private schools. We have Virginia Union and Hampton University and Virginia Wesleyan, some of our private four-year schools. They're doing very well, and so we have a strong university system. Strong colleges and out-of-state students prefer coming to Virginia because of the rigorous academic experience that they receive, and their degrees are marketable. So if you look at our schools, you will find students from around the country seeking admission into our schools.
Delegate Howell, what about those students who finish high school but have no desire or motivation to continue their education? Should there be a little bit more emphasis on vocational education so those students can acquire a skill that will allow them to become productive members of society?
Most definitely, and I have supported that philosophy for a long time. As a matter of fact, when I was teaching at Hampton High School back in the 70s, college is, every person is not geared, not prone to go to college per se, as most people understand it. To get a bachelor's degree in education is fine if you want to be a teacher, but when you look at the jobs, for an example, you can go to school and learn to be a plumber, a brick mason, a carpenter, and these jobs pay well. I was out in Indiana a year or so ago visiting with my daughter and grandchildren. They provide that kind of training there. There's a lot of Amish people out there, and even though when they reach the age of 16, they drop out of school, but they are all prepared to go into the workforce once they leave. I think this should be, we should encourage this more, even in our high schools. I noted when I was teaching that everybody did not want to necessarily be on the academic side. They wanted to, and we, at that time, we had sheet metal in the school. They could learn how to be a sheet metal worker, and we must provide that because I was in Boston a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact, a couple of months ago, and the speakers there, we had 4 speakers there, and from major companies, and they are saying that they have millions of jobs that they could give to people, but they're not trained to do that kind of work. We have to do more, go into doing more technical work, teaching kids how to do something other than maybe using a typewriter, which typewriters are no longer in existence, but there are other things, areas that we are not doing what we should be doing, or not everything that we could be doing in terms of gearing these young people in the right direction.
Great. With reference to your local school districts, Delegate, there were a couple of pieces of legislation passed last year, one of which now allows the Commonwealth to take over a failing school. There's another piece of legislation that purports to change the system of grading schools from from something different to now A to F. There's been some pushback from local school districts about those, and we also have the standards of learning reform that's on the agenda this year. Talk to us about those issues.
I don't sit on education, so I don't have a wealth of background on that, but I can tell you this. When all three of us went to school, we were all operated under A to F situation on a grading system. The standards of education are good, but sometimes we have to reform them because they're just tests given, and after a year or 2 or 3 years, that test gets old and stale, and it doesn't really reflect what a student knows. I like the test, and I don't like it. So, you know, all I can say to you is that we're having a problem in our educational system. We got to bring it up. There is no question about that. Northern Virginia is way ahead of us than we are. I don't know the reason for it. I don't know the reason why we're having some problems down our way, but we are having those problems, and we're going to work out of them. There's no question about that. And we're pushing hard as we can. Now, with regard to whether or not a state ought to come in, we probably put up about 50% of the school budget, and we pay for the retirement of school teachers to the amount of money that we actually appropriate for them. For example, if the average across the state is $45,000 for a school teacher, Northern Virginia might be paying 55 or 60. So we will contribute what is necessary to pick up the 40,000, 45,000. It's a complicated formula. It's nothing written in stone. It's been that way for years now, and it's in the Constitution that says that we contribute to the localities. Localities normally are the ones that control the educational system. We try to help from up above and try to let localities actually do what they think is the right thing to do for their people back home. That's the best place, in my opinion, for education to take place. In other words, if you live in Norfolk, let the Norfolk School Board set up all those things that are necessary. But let's make sure that we have a standard across the state so that everybody gets a minimum amount of education that is necessary. Now, if you want to have some elective courses or other things like that, I think that's up to the locality to make a decision on where and how they want to push that. And I agree with Algie when he talks about education. I had wood shop when I went to school, and I made a little table and a little desk. As a matter of fact, I still have them at home. My wife is surprised that I ever did anything like that. But anyway, all of that is important, I think, because it helps train you on what other people do also. Not only yourself. I might be a lawyer, but that's just a job. You know, I was fortunate that my parents worked and schools weren't as expensive as they are today. I could have never gotten through. My family wasn't wealthy, so you know, it was one of those situations where I went to school, I worked in summers, and all of us were in the same boat. And we're all trying to get back to where we were then as far as the cost is involved. It's a shame that students now come out of school with $90,000, $100,000 owing because they went to college, and then they can't find a job. That's not right. We've got to do something. I can tell you, I don't know what the answer is, and I'm not going to sit here and try to profound this and that. I think we just got to work harder and try to experiment and see where we go. And I can tell you that the Norfolk area particularly is lucky to have these two gentlemen there because they are workers, they work hard, and they're trying to do what's good for their community. We all try to do that, and we have a harder job than some of the other areas do because we're at the end of the street, more or less. We got the water behind us. So I'm hoping that as the future goes on, that we'll be able to lift our educational system up. Now, when you talk about whether or not the state should come in, I'm not sure, because now we have a conflict of whether or not the locality or the state should say how it works. And I wouldn't want the state to stay involved in it any longer than it takes to make sure that school is straight and then get out quickly. But I don't know if that's the right way to go or not. So that's about it on that. I want to say one thing about the tunnel, though.
The tunnel, the infamous tunnel. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just it's a shame, you know, when we have a tunnel. We've had. I was 12 years old when the first tube was built across downtown, and now we're paying $1.84, and prime time, whatever time they made it, it doesn't seem logical, but they're doing it so they can get more money than the $1.54 for non-prime time for automobiles, and then $7.40 something for a truck. I'm worried about, very worried about, not adding any new tubes to that tunnel. And here we are paying for money that doesn't go to ourselves to fix that tunnel downtown. I mean,
let me ask Senator Alexander about that, because I know you were a leader in that. There was a lawsuit that failed, unfortunately, from your point of view. What, if any, mitigative efforts are going on now to reduce those fees?
Yeah, well, thank you. Actually, it was a joint effort. Delegate Howell and Delegate Jones, Chris Jones was involved, and Delegate Joannou and Matthew James and Sproul and Cosgrove. We all were involved. The whole Hampton Roads delegation was troubled by the contract. The contract was signed in December 2011 without any of our involvement. VDOT and ERC signed a contract to turn the tunnels over to a private equity firm for 58 years.
58 years.
58 years, with a toll that can continue to increase every year, and the private firm is authorized a 13.5% return. We have appropriated millions of dollars already, hundreds of millions of dollars we have already appropriated from the public sector. We're troubled by the deal because the toll today started on February the 1st. We challenged the constitutionality of it. The court rules, Supreme Court said it was legal for VDOT and ERC to enter into a contract, but the court didn't say it was the best public policy. The court didn't say that we got a good deal. The court just was silent on, you know, the terms, the conditions, the provisions. The court just said it's legal. We have worked with the current governor, and he has amended the contract already, and we applaud Governor McAuliffe for keeping a campaign promise. When the previous governor said it could not be amended, nothing could be done, Governor McAuliffe had found a way to amend the contract to lower the toll during construction. I agree with Delegate Joannou and Delegate Howell. There is no new capacity at the downtown tunnel, no new tubes, no new roads, but there's going to be a full assessment of a toll at the downtown tunnel with no new capacity. Today, it's reported that 22% of the people that normally use the downtown tunnel went to the Gimmerton Bridge or the high-rise bridge, which puts, you know, added traffic congestion at those facilities. We need to continue to find ways to eliminate the toll at the downtown tunnel, because there's no new capacity, no new roads, there's not a new tube there, but there is a toll for a tube that's been paid for over and over again. And so we're committed to trying to eliminate the toll at the downtown tunnel.
Delegate Howell, a public-private partnership that's gone south, but unfortunately south in a real negative way, it seems.
It does appear to be headed, or at least in that direction. But going back a step or two, for the past 8 years, I put in a 10-cent gas tax at a time when people just didn't support that kind of thing. Actually, it could have been 20 cents a gallon, and it would have corrected all the problems that we are facing now. But nobody, well, I wouldn't say nobody, but the majority of people did not support a gas tax. Had we imposed that gas tax, it would have taken care of the tunnels that we are now faced with, and it's unfortunate, as Delegate Joannou said, we have students and workers that live in Suffolk that travel to Norfolk to the various hospitals there to work, and this is going to be an additional $20 a week on them for people who are barely making minimum wages. You have students attending Old Dominion University, Norfolk State, some of the Tidewater community colleges that cannot afford this. It's really going to harm them. And I was not surprised, but it really hurt me to note that the state Supreme Court did not rule that unconstitutional. The legislators here, we did not have the opportunity to even vote on that. It was a terrible thing to happen in this area, and I hate it. I hate to see this happen because of the love that I have for the students going to Norfolk State University, because I know that many of the students that go to Norfolk State University cannot afford to go to some of the other schools, and it has really put a damper on the whole situation there. People are going to suffer as a result of that, and as the senator said, guaranteeing people 13.5% net profit, and then, as he mentioned about the high-rise, if people start traveling over the high-rise and they don't make as much money, as much profit as they should, then the state is going to have to make up the difference and pay this company for that. It was something that should have never happened in this state.
I want to end with a subject that's just as volatile and contentious this session, but we only have about a minute and a half left. Medicaid expansion. I know you've got a lot to say about that, but I want to make sure your colleagues have an opportunity to comment on it as well.
Very quickly, I'm on the Merck Commission, and we're trying to find the answer to a lot of problems that we're having, and we've discussed that earlier.
Right.
And what I'm going to say is give an opportunity to the other two delegates. Right now, we're working on trying to get this moving as quickly as possible, but we still have a lot of answers to get before we go forward.
Great. Delegate Howell.
Well, I'm in support of Medicaid expansion. I think it's one way to provide medical care for people that otherwise could not afford it. I think it should be expanded. It's the law of the land, and I've always been one that believes in obeying the laws of the land. Whichever one supersedes the other, and in this particular case, it's the federal government. The federal government passed it. The president signed it in, and we should obey it.
Senator Alexander.
I support Medicaid expansion. 30,000 jobs, $1 billion will be saved, and it'll keep monies that's going out of state back here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's the right thing to do. 400,000 people will be covered.
Thank you for being here, Delegate Joannou, Delegate Algie Howell, Senator Kenny Alexander. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Cox Communications, connecting Virginians to their government. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans. Mm-hmm.